Hey guys, thank you for coming back. So today we will be going over chapter 2, which is licensing of the Florida Contractors manual book. So first thing you'll see is your table of contents. It's a pretty good idea to go over these just to get familiar. And you have some more in the back. And the first thing you want to highlight is professional regulation in general. The regulation of a profession, in turn, is generally accomplished by licensing. And then Department of Business and Professional Regulation. In Florida, most non-medical professional and occupational licensing boards are located within one state agency, the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. Down below, regulation of contractors in Florida. Chapter 489, Florida Statutes. Chapter 489, Florida Statutes, provides for the licensure and regulation of all types of construction in Florida and is divided into 3 parts: construction contracting, electrical and alarm system contracting, and septic tank contracting. Part 1 of 489 provides for an 18-member construction industry licensee board. Next page. The CILB is divided into 2 divisions. Division 1 has jurisdiction over the examination and regulation of general contractors, building contractors, and residential contractors. And you have Division 2. You want to highlight 11-member, Department of Health and Rehabilitation Services. On the side here, state contractor certification and registration. You also want, right here in construction contracting, the term demolish applies only to demolition of steel tanks, towers, and other structures, not buildings or residences, over 50 feet in height, and all buildings or residences. A person must be certified or registered in order to engage in the business of contracting in Florida. Any person who wants to engage in contracting statewide must establish competency and qualifications to be certified by passing the appropriate examination. A subcontractor, however, who is not certified or registered may perform construction work under the supervision of a person who is certified or registered, as long as, and then you want to go over 3 points. Down below, licensing requirements. Construction and electrical or alarm system contractors must be licensed in one of 2 ways under Chapter 489, as certified contractor or as a registered contractor. Whenever you guys see numbers, it's important that you circle them. That way they stay in your mind. A registered contractors can only contract in the jurisdiction that issued the license or in areas that recognize the certification. Certification, certified construction contractors. To be eligible to take an examination for certification, an applicant must, and here are the qualifications you should go over. One of the main ones is an active certified air conditioning B-class contractor with at least 1 year of proven experience, and that certification is eligible to take the air conditioning Class A contractor's license. Experience and education. The CILB will accept lawfully acquired experience gained under the supervision of a contractor who at the time was properly licensed in the category which encompasses the scope of practice in which the applicant is seeking licensure. Down below, commercial experience must be in 4 or more of the following areas. A minimum of 2,000 person hours is used for purpose of determining full-time equivalency. So I'm gonna underline 2,000 hours. Have within 12 years prior to filing the application at least 6 years of comprehensive specialized training, education, or supervisory experience in the alarm system, contracting business, or at least 6 years. There's another number, 6 years of technical experience in electrical or alarm system. Work with the alarm forces of governmental entity. So this is talking about certified electrical alarm system contractors and what you need to be qualified. Page 212, licensure of members of the armed forces and their spouses. Page 213, medical gas certification. A plumbing contractor who wishes to engage in a business of installation, improvement, repair, or maintenance of any tubing, pipe, or similar conduit used to transport gas for medical purpose must, in addition to obtaining a certification or registration as a plumbing contractor, take 6 hours, you want to circle that, of continuing education designed to teach familiarity with NFPA Standard 99C. So this question will most likely be on your exam. Down below, any person who is employed by a licensed plumbing contractor to install, improve, repair, or maintain a medical gas system must take a course of at least 8 hours of both classroom and practical work designed to teach familiarity in performing and inspecting brazing duties required of medical gas installation, improvement, repair, or maintenance work. So here's another one you want to circle, 8 hours of both classroom and practical work. Page 214, criminal history. For a crime more than 5 years may not be grounds for denial. Do not relate to the practice of contracting or the ability to practice contracting. Include the following. This is talking about applicant moral character and criminal history. Next page, other license requirements. Financial responsibility requirements, net worth reporting, evidence of financial responsibility, your credit report, and business reputation. These are very important. The financial stability ground, FICO derived of 660 or higher. That's the credit score that you should have. 50% of the financial stability bond of the letter of credit requirement may be met by completion of 14-hour, underline this, responsibility course approved by the board. $10,000 for an unlimited electrical and alarm contractor and $5,000 for a specialty contractor. Page 216, public liability insurance. This page is very important. You want to remember this page because here it will actually what is the property damage for a general contractor. And right here it tells you liability $300,000, property damage $50,000. And in the test, it can actually from any of these. So this you definitely want to remember. Down below, evidence of workers' comp coverage. Must be provided with evidence of workers' comp coverage pursuant to Chapter 440 Florida statutes. Next page, notice of election to be exempt with the Division of Workers' Comp of the Department of Labor and Employment Security. If approved, the exemption takes effect 31 days after filing and remains in effect until revoked or for a period of 2 years. Terms of license. Licensure as a certified or registered contractor must be renewed every 2 years. Remember that, guys. Every 2 years your license must be renewed. You want to circle that. Continuing education. Each certified or registered contractor must complete a 14 classroom or interactive distance learning hours of continuing education every 2 years. Again, you want to highlight these key numbers for continuing education. Then, 12 months prior to the end of a biannual period is required to complete 7 hours of approved continuing education. Business records. Contractors licensed pursuant to Chapter 49 Florida statutes must maintain complete financial and business records kept regular course of business for the immediately preceding 3 years. So whenever they ask you a question about business records, remember it will ask you about licensing and business records. Page 218, licensing exemptions, construction contracting. So right here it'll tell you which jobs you don't need license for. Here are all the exceptions. The main ones are, or ones that I've seen on the exams, is highway, street, road, bridge, railway, contractors, and service incidental thereto. You don't need a license. Owners of property when acting as the own contractor and providing direct on-site supervision themselves of all work not performed by licensed contractors. When building or improving farm outbuilding or one-family, two-family homes for the occupancy of the owner and not offered for sale or lease, or building or improving commercial building on such property at a cost not to exceed $75,000. Down below, letter I, with certain exceptions, persons performing work of casual or inconsequential nature with a contract price of less than $2,500 unless the person represents that he or she is qualified contractor. Letter L, persons who only furnish material or supplies without fabricating them into or consuming them into the performance of contracting work. Letter O, persons who sell, service, or install heating, air conditioning units that have a capacity not greater than 3 tons or 36,000 BTU, which have no ducts, and which have a factory installed electrical cord and plug. Any one-family, two-family, or three-family residence constructed by Habitable or Humanity International Inc. or its local affiliates. The sale, delivery, assembly, or tie-down of prefabricated portable sheds that are 250 feet or less in interior size and are not intended for use as residence. The sale, delivery, assembly, or tie-down of lawn storage building and storage buildings not exceeding 400 square feet and bearing the insignia of approval from the Department of Community Affairs showing compliance with the Florida Building Code. Down below, subcontracting requirements. A contractor shall subcontract all electrical, mechanical, plumbing, roofing, sheet metal, swimming pool, and air conditioning work unless such contractor holds a state certificate or registration in the respective trade category. However, the following exceptions are recognized. General contractors and certified underground utilities and excavation contractors may perform clearing and grubbing, grading, excavation, and other site work for construction project. Certified building contractors and certified residential contractors may perform clearing, grubbing, grading, excavation, and other site work for construction project, limited to the lot on which any specific building is located. Letter B, general building and residential contractors are not required to subcontract the installation or repair made under warranty of wood shingles, wood shakes, or asphalt of fiberglass shingle roofing materials on new building on their own construction. General contractors are not required to subcontract structural swimming pool work. General contractors are not required to subcontract the construction of the main sanitary sewer collection system, the storm collection system, or the water distribution system on new site redevelopment work, mobile home parks, or commercial properties. General contractors are not required to subcontract the continuation of utility lines from the mains on mobile home parks. F. Solar contractors are not required to subcontract minor electrical, mechanical, plumbing, or roofing work as long as the work is within the scope of the contractor's license and the work exclusively pertains to the installation of residential solar energy equipment. So all these mentioned here, all these you do not need to subcontract. See, it says subcontracting requirements. So next page. This is a good one because it'll probably ask you a question about this one, about swimming pools. General contractors are not required to subcontract structural swimming pool work. When it's talking about structural, it means only the structural, but you do have to subcontract the plumbing part. Page 222, qualifying agent. General requirements. Registration of certification of person who seeks to engage in contracting in his name will be issued only to that individual. If an applicant seeks to engage in contracting as a partnership, corporation, or other business organization, the applicant must apply through a qualifying agent and under a fictitious name, if any. The application must state the name of the business organization and its partners, officers and directors, or trustees, and provide evidence of compliance with the fictitious name statute, if applicable. If a qualifying agent is the only licensed contractor affiliated with the business organization must notify the BPR of the termination of the qualifying agent and obtain another qualifying agent within 60 days. It's very important. You have 60 days to find a qualifying agent if you have lost the other guy. Professional responsibility and liability. In a business entity with one qualifying agent, the qualifying agent is responsible for supervision of the operations of the business, for all other field work at all sites, and unless financially responsible officer is designed, for financial matters of the organization for each specific job. A secondary qualifying agent is responsible only for supervision of field work. The secondary qualifying agent, again, is responsible for only supervision of field work. This is a question they will most likely ask you. At sites where his license was used to obtain building permit and any other work for which he accepts responsibility, a secondary qualifying agent is not responsible for supervision of financial matters. A business entity may designate a financially responsible officer, FRO, for purposes of certification or registration, subject to approval by the licensing board. A financially responsible officer assumes personal responsibility for all financial aspects of the business. So, page 223, still talking about professional responsibility, liability. A change in status of qualifying agent is effective from the date of the change forward and will not relieve the qualifying agent of responsibility from projects or actions that took place during the time he was acting as a qualifying agent. Failure to carry out this duty may serve as grounds for revocation of a qualifying agent contractor's license. A qualifying agent's claim and that he had no personal knowledge of activities of the business entity or of its employees that result in violation of Chapter 489 will not absolve the qualifying agent. So, very careful with that. A qualifying agent engagement of another to supervise the construction progress will not relieve him of responsibility. In addition, a contractor may be fined up to $5,000. You want to circle that or underline it. If a non-licensed person is associated with the firm, conceals material information from the firm's qualifying agent, or otherwise violated Chapter 489. In summary, the role and the liability of qualifying agents are, and you want to go over these definitions: primary qualifying agent and secondary qualifying agent. The exam can and probably will ask you what is a primary qualifying agent and secondary qualifying agent. So you want to engrave that in your mind, guys. Page 224, independent contractors of employees. Independent contractor has the right to control or direct only the result of work and not the means and methods accomplishing the result. IRS common law test. You have behavioral, financial, and type of relationship. Page 226, behavioral control. You have these key points. An employee. All of the following are examples of type of instructions about how to do work. Page 228, being treated as independent contractor. 1099, reflecting amounts earned in 600 or more. I want to underline that. Don't ever pay bonuses to persons who you treat as an independent contractor. I guess page 229, penalties for unlicensed activities. Engaging in contracting services or holding oneself out to be a contractor without first obtaining a license is a violation of Florida law. Any person who falsely holds himself or herself out to be a licensed contractor or who engages in contracting without first obtaining a license is guilty of first-degree misdemeanor, and the second offense is a third-degree felony. The Department of Business and Professional Regulation or county, municipal, or local licensing board may issue a cease and desist or to prohibit any person from engaging in the business of contracting without a valid license. Any contract entered into by a contract not licensed pursuant to Part 1, Construction, or Part 2's Electrical Alarm System, Chapter 49, Florida statutes is legally unenforceable. Persons who engage in contracting outside the geographical scope of their registration are also guilty of unlicensed contracting. In addition, any action against a contractor or injuries sustained resulting from the contractor's negligence, malfeasance, or misfeasance, the consumer is entitled of 3 times the actual damages sustained and cost and attorney fees if the contractor is neither certified by the state nor licensed pursuant to the laws of the city or county in which he or she does business. Changes in licensure information. A business organization must inform the Department of Business and Professional Regulation by mail of any change in the information required to be submitted on the application for qualification of a business organization within 45 days following the change. License number must appear on building permits and advertisements. A licensed contractor must place his registration or certification number on each building permit issued to him. In addition, a contractor's license number must appear in any advertisement concerning the contractor, including text or artwork of the contractor's vehicle. Grounds for disciplinary action against contractors. The licensing board may revoke, suspend, or deny the issuance of renewal of a license to a contractor, A and B. So more than likely, they will ask you questions about penalties for unlicensed activity. Next page, letter E, combining and conspiring with an unlicensed person to evade licensing laws, 5,000 to 100,000. Committing mismanagement or misconduct in the practice of contracting and that causes financial harm to a customer, 1,500 to 5,000 for first offense, 2,500 to 10,000 for repeat offense. Letter H. Letter O. Proceeding on any job without obtaining applicable local building department permits and inspections, 250 to 3,000 for late permit, 1,000 to 5,000 if job finished without permit, 250 to 1,000 for failure to obtain inspections. Down below, he or she relies on a building code interpretation rendered by a building official, absent a finding of fraud or deceit, gross negligence, repeated negligence, or negligence resulting in the significant danger of life or property of the part of the building official. And you have this rule down here. Next page. This page, you definitely want to tab chapter 455 right here. 455 highlighted, business and professional regulation, general provisions. One of the main things here is penalty for theft or reproduction of an examination. They will ask you a question about that. 455.11 qualification of immigrants for examination to practice a licensed profession or occupation. Department of Powers and Duties. I'm going to go to A. Close and terminate deficient license application files 2 years after the board of the department notifies the applicant of defiancy. Another thing you want here is B1. A conviction or any other adjudication for a crime more than 5 years before the date the application is received by applicable board may not be grounds for denial of a license specified in paragraph A, or just paragraph. Page 239. Number 7. The rules may provide that up to the maximum 25% of the required continuing education hours can be fulfilled by the performance of pro bono services to the indigent. Page 240, letter B. For each examination developed by the Department of Contracted Vendor, to the extent not otherwise specified by statute, the board of the department, when there is no board, shall by rule specify the general areas of competency to be covered by the examination. Page 242. Penalty for theft of reproduction of an examination, felony of a 3rd degree. An examinee whose examination materials are confiscated is not permitted to take another examination until the criminal investigation reveals that the examinee did not violate this section. Each continuing education provider shall retain all records relating to a licensee's completion of continuing education course for at least 4 years after completion of a course. Page 243. Foreign trained professionals, special examination and license provisions. Letter A. Immigrated to the United States after leaving the person's home country because of political reasons, provided such country is located in the Western Hemisphere and lacks diplomatic relations with the United States. Page 246. Mediation. If the complainant and the subject of the complaint agree to a resolution of a complaint within 14 days after contact by the mediator shall notify the department of the terms of the resolution. The department or board shall take no further action unless the complainant and the subject each fail to record the department of an acknowledgement of satisfaction of the terms of mediation within 60 days of the mediator's notification to the department. Number 4, no licensee shall go through the mediation process more than 3 times without approval of the department. Authority to issue citations. However, if the subject does not dispute the matter in the citation with the department within 30 days after the citation is served, the citation becomes a final order and constitutes discipline. Number 4, a citation must be issued within 6 months after the filing of the complaint that is the basis for the citation. Page 248. Classification of disciplinary actions. A licensee may petition the department to renew a disciplinary incident to determine whether the specific violation meets the standard of minor violation as set forth in statutes 455.2253. If the circumstances of the violation meet that standard, 2 years have passed since the issuance of the final order imposing discipline. The department shall reclassify that violation as inactive if the licensee has not been disciplined for any subsequent minor violation of the same nature. Page 251. Unlicensed activity fees disposition is very important as well. You more than likely will get an exam question. Therefore, the department shall impose upon initial licensure and each subsequent renewal a special fee of $5 per license, in addition to all other fees imposed to fund efforts to combat unlicensed activity. Page 254. Failure of licensee to renew before the license expires shall cause the license to become delinquent in the license cycle following expiration. Renewal and cancellation notice. At least 90 days before the end of the licensure cycle, the department shall forward a licensure. 2. Forward a notice of pending cancellation of licensure to a delinquent status license at the licensee's last known address of record or email address provided to the department. You also have Chapter 489, which is a book within another book, and this is all under licensing. It's called Construction Contracting. Exemptions. And under exemptions, you want to go to number 1 over here on page 259. When building or improving farm outbuilding or one family or two family residences on such property for the occupancy or use of such owners and not offered for sale or lease, or building or improving commercial building at cost not to exceed $75,000 on such property for the occupancy or use of such owners and not offered for sale or lease. So some of the information on these chapters will be in the beginning of chapter 2 under licensing. Page 261, number 9. Any work or operation of casual, minor, or inconsequential nature in which the aggregate contract price for labor, material, and all other items is less than $2,500, but this exemption does not apply. Page 262, definitions, board, department, and contractor. You want to get familiar with those. General contractor, building contractor means a contractor whose services are limited to construction of commercial building and single dwelling or multiple dwelling residential buildings, which do not exceed 3 stories in height. So here it tells you the difference between a general contractor, building contractor, and residential contractor. Page 266, Construction Industry Licensing Board. The board shall consist of 18 members of the following. You have 49.109 fees. With respect to an applicant for a certification, the initial application fee may not exceed $150. You also have the initial certification fee and the renewal fee may not exceed $250. These will most likely be on your exam. And the initial application fee and renewal fee shall not be renewal fee shall be $50 as well. 268. In addition to the fees provided in subsection 1 for application and renewal for certification and registration, all certificate holders and registrants must pay a fee of $4 to the department at the time of application for renewal. Licensure by examination. Here are the following: 18 years of age, is of good moral character, and meets eligibility requirements according to one of the following criteria. We have number 4A. An active certified residential contractor is eligible to receive a certified building contractor license after passing or having previously passed the building contractor's examination if he or she passes a minimum of 3 years proven experience in the classification in which he or she is certified. An active certified residential contractor is eligible to receive a certified general contractor's license after passing or having previously passed the general contractor's examination if he or she possesses a minimum of 4 years of proven experience in the classification in which he or she is certified. So this is another key point to remember. Page 269, letter E. A general contractor shall not be required to subcontract the continuation of utility lines, mains in mobile home parks, and such continuations are to be considered a part of the main sewer collection and main water distribution system. 271. Medical gas certification. In addition to the certification or registration required to engage in business as a plumbing contractor, any plumbing contractor who wishes to engage in the business or installation, improvement, repair, or maintenance of any tubing, pipe, or similar conduit used to transport gaseous or partly gaseous substances for medical purposes shall take, as part of the contractor's continuing education requirement, at least once during the holding of such license, a course of at least 6 hours. So this is very important. More than likely you will get a question from this. This is employed, take a course of 8 hours. This is in regard to medical gas certification as well. Page 273, certification and registration endorsement reciprocity. I don't know how to pronounce that, but renewals, continuing education. Letter B, each certificate holder or registrant shall provide proof in a form established by a rule of board that the certificate holder or registrant has completed at least 14 classroom hours of at least 50 minutes each of continuing education course during each biennium since the issuance of renewal or of the certificate or registration. Next page. Oops. Skip on. Page 276. Currently holds a valid registered local license, one of the contractor categories defined in 49.105. Has at least 5 years of experience as a contractor in that contracting category or as an inspector building administrator. Business organization qualifying agent. If any qualifying agent ceases to be affiliated with a business organization, he shall inform the department. In addition, if the qualifying agent is the only certified or registered contractor affiliated with the business organization shall notify the department of the termination of the qualifying agent and shall have 60 days. So you want to circle that. From the termination of the qualifying agent affiliation with the business organization in which to employ another qualifying agent. Page 277. The registration or certification number of each contractor shall appear in each offer or services, business proposal, bid, contract, or advertisement regardless of medium, as defined by board rule used by that contractor or business organization in the practice of contracting. Letter D. For the purpose of this part, the term advertisement does not include business stationery or any promotional novelty such as balloons, pencils, trinkets, or articles of clothing. So the number does not have to be in any of these. Page 278. The status of the qualifying agent shall cease upon the designation of a new primary qualifying agent or 60 days after satisfactory notice of termination has been provided to the board, whichever first occurs. Within 60 days, all secondary qualifying agents for the business organization shall become primary qualifying agents. So again, 60 days. Emergency registration upon death of contractor. Such person shall notify the board within 30 days after the death of the contractor of his or her name, address, knowledge of the contract, and ability to complete it. If the board approves, he or she may proceed with the contract. 489.124. Business records requirements, address, or record service. All contractors who are registered or certified pursuant to this chapter shall maintain complete financial and business records for the immediately preceding 3 years. Page 279. 489.126. Monies received by contractors. A contractor who receives an initial payment money totaling more than 10% of the contract price for repair, restoration, improvement, or construction to residential real property must apply for permit necessary to do work within 30 days after the day payment is made, except where the work does not require a permit under the applicable codes and ordinances, and start the work within 90 days after the date all necessary permits for work, if any, are issued. So this is another very important one. See what else we have here. 282. Contracts entered into by unlicensed contractors, unenforceable. Chapter 489.129, page 283, disciplinary proceedings. The board may take any of the following actions against any certificate holder or registrant: place on probation or reprimand the license, revoke, suspend, or deny the issuance or renewal of the certificate or registration, required financial restitution to a consumer for financial harm directly related to a violation of provision of this part, Impose an administrative fine not to exceed $10,000 per violation. Letter D. Performing any act of assist a person or entity in engaging in the prohibited, uncertified, and unregistered practice of contracting. Right side of the page, number 1. Valid liens have been recorded against the property of a contractor's customer for supplies or services ordered by the contractor for the customer's job. The contractor has received funds from the customer to pay for the supplies or services, and the contractor has not had the lien removed from the property by payment or by bond within 75 days after the date of such liens. Letter J. Abandoning a construction project in which the contractor is engaged or under contract as a contractor. A project may be presumed abandoned after 90 days if the contractor terminates the project without just cause or without proper notification to the owner, including the reason for termination, or fails to perform work without just cause 90 consecutive days. So those are key numbers as well. They will ask you a question about this. Page 284. Letter O. Proceeding on any job without obtaining applicable local building department permits and inspections. Number 2. If a registrant or certificate holder disciplined under subsection 1 is a qualifying agent or financially responsible officer for a business organization and the violation was performed in connection with a construction project undertaken by that business organization, the board may impose an additional administrative fine not to exceed $5,000 per violation against the business organization or against any partner, officer, director, trustee, or member if such person participated in the violation or knew or should have known of the violation and failed to take responsible corrective action. 6A. The board may assess interest on penalties on all fines imposed under this chapter against any person or business organization which has not paid the imposed fine by due date established by the rule or final order. Next page, 286, letter E. This is for applicability. To require one bond for each contractor in an amount of not to exceed $5,000, which bond shall be conditioned only upon. Letter B, right hand side of the page. The local governing body of a county or municipality or its local enforcement office body is authorized to enforce the provisions of this part, as well as the local ordinances against locally licensed or registered contractors as appropriate. The local jurisdiction enforcement body may conduct disciplinary proceedings against a locally licensed or registered contractor and may require restitution, impose a suspension or revocation of his or her local license, or a fine not to exceed $5,000. Page 290, letter F. A claim for recovery is made within 1 year after the conclusion of any civil, criminal, or administrative action or award in arbitration based on the Act. This paragraph applies to any claim filed with the board after October 1st, 1998. Chapter 49.1425, Duty of contractor to notify residential property owner of recovery fund. This is another important one. You will get a question from the recovery fund. Upon finding a first violation of subsection 1, the board may fine the contractor up to $500 and the money must be deposited into the recovery fund. B. Upon finding second or subsequent violation of subsection 1, the board shall fine the contractor $1,000 per violation and the money must be deposited into the recovery fund. see what else we got. So you want to go to page 121. This is for 61G4-12.008, time for compliance with final order. You want to highlight civil penalty for violation of Chapter 455. The penalty shall be paid within 30 days of its opposition by order of the board. So this is key number to remember, guys. Down below, number 3, failure to pay a fine. Annual percentage rate of 18%. So underline that. So this is like another book with another book, but it's also under licensing. Another important one, 61G4-12.009 fees. The application and examination fee for an applicant for certification shall be $335. Page 2123, number 13, the application fee for certification of a registered contractor pursuant to section 489.118 Florida statutes should be $100. So these questions you will get asked. So remember these numbers under license. Definitions: advertise, advertises. They shall not apply to balloons, pencils, pens, hats, articles, clothing, shirts, or other promotional novelties. So this was in the previous chapter under licensing as well. So you will see the same thing a few times within this chapter, within this licensing. Here's another one, 130, business organizations. 3A, the applicant seeking to qualify an additional business organization must appear before the board unless the applicant otherwise qualifies for approval. And B, qualifying 3 or more business organizations must appear before the board. So this is if you're looking to qualify more than one business. Page 131, public liability insurance. As a prerequisite to the initial issuance, the renewal of any active certificate or registration or change in the status of an active certification or registration, the applicant shall submit a signed affidavit attesting to the fact that the applicant has obtained and will maintain public liability property damage insurance in the amount stated herein for the life of the active certificate or registration and for the safety and welfare of the public. It shall be a violation of this rule for any license to fail to continually maintain liability and properly damage issuance in the amounts set forth herein. The certificate of issuance shall be prepared by an issuer insurance agency and must contain the following. Page 133. This is for notification of changes. A certificate holder or registrant shall notify the board office within 30 days of a change in name, style of address from that which appears on the current certificate or registration, and shall notify the board office within 30 days after the qualifying person has ceased to be affiliated with the qualified business organization. Number 2, a certificate holder or registrant must inform the board by mail within 45 calendar days of changes in any information required to be stated on application for qualification of business organization. Down below, 61G4-15.009, replacement of qualifying persons. A business organization which loses its qualifying person shall have 60 days from the date the qualifier terminated this affiliation within which to obtain another qualifying agent. So that's what this is about. Page 134. 61G4-15.010, requirement for applicants seeking administration of oral examination. See what else you can highlight here, guys, for your chapter 2 with licensing. Okay, page 2, 156. 61G4-16.005, duration of validity. For the purpose of certification, a passing grade shall be valid only for a period of 4 years from the date the most recently passed portion of exam. Page 2, 158, very important page. This page you should definitely remember it, and you should have on your tab disciplinary guidelines. You will get a question from this page, these 2 pages. Disciplinary guidelines, you have violation, obtaining a license through fraud or misrepresentation. If misrepresentation, minimum is $5,000 fine and probation or suspension, and maximum is $10,000 fine and revocation. Another example is number 4, failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund. Your first offense is $250 minimum, maximum $500 fine. So that's how you read these. You have your minimum and your maximum, and you have the violation all the way on the left. Another one that you probably see here is, let's see. Oh, you have citations on page 2, 171. You have page 2, 172. You have failure to keep business and financial records as required, $100 fine. So these are fines for financial records under licensing again. Let's see what else. And that's usually it for chapter 2. So remember, guys, to highlight, circle numbers, keywords, and let's see what else we have here. This is a long chapter, but make sure to go over it 3 times at least. And for the next one, we will be going over, it will be chapter 3, financial management. So thank you guys for watching.